In Game 3 of the 2024 Finals, despite a nightmare fourth quarter that nearly saw them squander a 21-point lead, the Boston Celtics just had a great victory against the Dallas Mavericks. Star guards Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic had their combined best offensive game of the NBA Finals, but it still wasn't enough for the Dallas Mavericks to beat the Boston Celtics. The Celtics took control of the Finals Wednesday with a 106-99 victory for a 3-0 series lead. They are one win away from their first championship since 2008 and their 18th overall, which would break a tie with the Los Angeles Lakers for most titles in NBA history. After 3 games in the Finals, we can conclude the Celtics Talali outplayed the Mavericks. In Game 1, Dallas went back and forth to start the game, but Boston went on a monster 25-7 run fueled by Porzingis and great overall defense to take a 17-point lead after one. Jaylen Brown helped push the lead as high as 29 before a late flurry cut it to 21 at the half. The Mavs went on a huge run to cut the lead all the way down to 8, but Boston answered behind some amazing defense by Brown to get it back up to 20. It got up to 25 in the fourth, and Boston cruised from there. In Game 2, the Celtics really struggled with their shooting in the first quarter, while Luka Doncic dropped 13 and Kyrie Irving added 8, but Boston was only down 3 thanks to going 10 from the line. Drew Holiday found openings around the rim on his way to an 11-point quarter, flipping the deficit to a 3-point lead at halftime. The lead got up to 13 despite the rough shooting, but the Mavs were able to cut it to 6 before a Peyton Pritchard buzzer beater sent the crowd into a frenzy. They got the lead back up to 14 late in the third after Holiday and Derek White hit consecutive 3-pointers. The Mavs made one last push, but White's key late block sealed the win. The Mavericks' defensive turnaround since the All-Star break isn't rocket science. Dallas got bigger, longer, more athletic at the trade deadline and loaded up the paint to wall off the rim, daring teams to punish them with 3-point shooting. It wasn't a bad gamble, because even the best 3-point shooters are only making anywhere from 48% of their open threes for the most part, while a league average percentage at the rim is around 64%. There is variance in shooting a jumper compared to scoring on a layup or dunk, and Dallas smartly leveraged its size to cut off the water on the most sustainable shot in basketball, so a slightly less reliable one might not kill them. That's before even factoring in where those threes are taken and who are taking them, which is something Dallas has figured out pretty well. Dallas defense almost demands perfection from the opposing 5 players on the floor, because the Mavericks pounce when there's even one subpar offensive player sharing the floor. So what happens when a team can play 5 above average offensive players for a full 48 minutes? Well, you have the Celtics taking some of the bite out of the Mavericks defense, and a big reason they're up 3-0 in the NBA Finals after a 106-99 win in Game 3. After going a perfect 15 of 15 in the restricted area in Game 1, the Celtics went 20 of 27 in Game 2. Dallas entered the finals only allowing opponents to make 59.6% of their shots in the restricted area in the first 3 rounds of the playoffs. Now the Celtics are not only winning the battle at the 3-point line, 26 made threes to the Mavericks, 13 in the 2 games, but they're scoring well at the rim. Dallas has survived the 3-point gap up until now because the rim was entirely shut off. Now the Mavericks are giving up both. What makes it worse is that Boston isn't doing anything overtly complicated or complex. The Celtics aren't a heavy pick and roll team, and they don't have a dominant playmaker that's impossible to deal with. Instead, they just throw constant, consistent pressure at you from all 5 players on the floor, and Dallas's drive containment has been absolutely compromised due to how unique the Celtics rotation is. Lots of teams talk about shooting, spacing, and 5-out play, but there is nothing remotely similar to what the Celtics roll out with Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis at the 5, always surrounded by 4 more shooters and capable drivers. Entering the finals, Mavericks opponents were shooting 59.6% in the restricted area, a number well below league average. In the finals, Boston is shooting 72.3%. Also consider this: none of the Mavericks opponents shot 50% or better on drives against the Mavericks in the first 3 rounds. In the finals through 3 games, the Celtics are shooting 55.9% on drives and creating assists on 11% of those drives. Dallas cannot contain the point of attack because the Celtics roster bends and warps the floor balance in such a way that it limits what Dallas is good at. If the Mavericks have their centers, either Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively on the Celtics center, that creates pick and pop and closeout mismatches, or keeps Gafford and Lively away from the paint to contest drives. Dallas has tried hiding their centers on Drew Holiday, but the Celtics are wisely using Holiday as a release valve in the dunker spot, and Holiday is attacking the big aggressively when the ball is swung to him. Holiday scored 26 points in Game 2 and only needed 2 made threes to get there. He shot 9 of 10 on 2s. Even when the Mavericks smartly switched in this scenario to keep Gafford near the rim, Jones has a reckless closeout that gets Holiday an easy 2. It wasn't just Holiday that cooked, but seemingly every Celtics player was blowing by the Mavericks' perimeter defenders. And then with the ridiculous spacing, the Mavericks basically asked their centers to be superhuman and cover more ground than they could. Dallas has tried switching its centers to guard those drives outright, but neither big has held up that end too well. And when a big gets beat on the perimeter, that means the backline help defense is small. Boston took advantage of that continually in Game 2. This Holiday 3 is a prime example of everything going wrong for Dallas. Luka Doncic is beat off the dribble by Jaylen Brown, who meets Gafford at the rim. That part is okay. The Mavericks have taken away the paint. Then the kickout happens. Josh Green and PJ Washington both close out to one player, Derek White, which then gives Jason Tatum a clear angle to drive. Dallas surrenders 2 decent drives, forcing poor rotations that end in a Holiday corner 3. Perhaps the Mavericks can actually dare the Celtics bigs to shoot them into a win. Porzingis and Horford are a combined 5 of 15 from 3 in the series. The Mavericks could keep their bigs in the paint and see if those two make enough shots to make things uncomfortable. No option sounds great, and that's why Boston won a league best 64 games this season. That's why they've only lost 2 games in the entire playoffs so far, and that's why they posted one of the best net rating seasons in NBA history. Dallas has its work cut out for them, but they should try to get back on track by finding the strength around the rim that got them to the finals. After the Boston Celtics looked categorically dominant in Game 1, and then made the fundamentals of the matchup appear unsolvable for the Dallas Mavericks in Game 2, the series suddenly had the potential to be intriguing again with Kristaps Porzingis' mysterious foot injury. Porzingis was the energizing turbo button to the Celtics' blowout win in Game 1, and his presence and then absence in Game 2 were equally conspicuous. The Celtics contain more multitudes than any title contender in recent memory, given how long they've been in this position and the quality and diversity of their top 6, and they possess enough dominant ways to play to withstand a vintage Kyrie Irving performance to take a 1-point deficit in halftime and transform it into a 91-70 lead early in the fourth following a 35-19 third quarter and a pair of quick 3-pointers in the fourth from Jaylen Brown and Derek White. All series, Boston coach Joe Mazzulla has urged his players to fight for great shots. The ESPN microphones even picked up Jason Tatum admonishing himself to his teammates for taking a rushed shot. This is because the Celtics know their biggest advantage over Dallas is that they are far better at creating shots for each other. In their Game 3 win on Thursday, Tatum had 31 points. Jaylen Brown had 24 of his 30 points in the second half, but they still combined for 13 of Boston's 26 assists. The Mavs were again left frustrated as they fell behind 21 points, but then battled back in the last quarter to get within a point before Boston pulled away again. Kyrie Irving had a game-high 35 points, and Luka Doncic had 27 points, but he fouled out with 2 minutes to go after Brown attacked him defensively in the final term. Doncic was not happy post-game. "We couldn't play physical," Doncic said post-game. "I don't want to say anything, but 6 fouls in the NBA Finals? My hands are out like this. Come on, man. We have to be better than that." Dallas fans may feel aggrieved over the calls that put Luka Doncic out of the game, but the sturdily built Slovenian had an off night in many respects. 11 for 27 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3-point range, and I question the box score that says he only had 3 turnovers. It felt like more. This Game 3, Irving was playing quicker and more potently off the dribble, getting into the paint more decisively and easily than he had in either game in Boston. Irving gave Jason Kidd and the Mavericks everything they needed from him and more, but that's just not enough. Jason Tatum similarly played with far more force and aggression from the outset. Tatum still wasn't at the peak of his efficiency, but he took advantage of the space he was afforded by the Mavericks, instead of stubbornly insisting on getting to where he wanted on the floor. Brown continued to be the most reliable star in the series and made the single biggest shot of the game with a minute left in the fourth to extend the Boston lead from 2 to 4. Tatum and Brown each had a May 5th 30 in the game, the first time teammates ever posted that type of stat line in the finals. Boston's punditocracy will eventually learn that it takes more than one player to win. Michael Jordan had Scottie Pippen and some outstanding role players. In Doncic, Irving, and Tatum, we're seeing 3 of the game's greatest players of the past decade and change on the court, but the Celtics' so-called supporting cast has simply been better than their counterparts on the Mavericks roster. Derek Lively's strong rookie performance notwithstanding, the Mavs face what historically has been an impossible task, coming back from a 3-0 deficit to win a series. Teams that have fallen behind 3-0 in the NBA playoffs are 0, 156, and just 4 teams have forced a Game 7. The only time one of those teams pushed the series to 7 games in the finals was in 1951. This is the 15th time a team has taken a 3-0 lead in the finals. Game 4 is in Dallas on Friday, and the Celtics have a chance to become just the 10th team to sweep in the NBA Finals. Like and subscribe to see more marvels about NBA.